Hey everybody, Weem here. Today I'm playing Edge of Space. I spoke recently with Lady Ijo, the community manager for Edge of Space, and she described the game to me by saying, imagine Terraria and Metroid had a baby. So that kind of gives you the basic concept of the game. This is an open world game and the worlds are dynamically generated. Like Terraria, you can dig and place terrain. Additionally, you can make placeables such as storage crates, stores, other things like that. In fact, the game has a power system too. This allows you to place generators that can power various placeables. So, a pretty cool system. The concept is simple enough, the power system, but it has a lot of options, and you can get very complex with it if you wanted to. So normally in this series, I'm playing these games blindly. I'm just kind of jumping into them with no prior knowledge or anything. I haven't played them ahead of time, but in this case, this game has a bit of a learning curve, and I thought instead I would fill you in on the basics of the game while also kind of showing you what it's all about. And that's why you're seeing my mouse cursor here, so I just can better point out things. So let's get started. I think the first place to start would be controls here. So you use the A and D left and right here to move, spacebar to jump. If you jump and then hold, you can fly, or if you're falling, you can just hold to fly. You do have energy up top here, and you can see it kind of refilled. We're at 20 of 20. So as I jump and hold, you'll see it's spending it. It won't recharge unless I'm on the ground, so you'll see the +1s over me here. The blue boxes up here, your health bar, you can see I'm down a little bit. Probably took some fall damage, so that's that. There is an interact button, in this case it's F, so I can interact with my cryopod, and I'll get to what this is all about in a bit. But let's see, we have the C button, will bring up my character. You can see I do have one helmet now. Got all my stats over here, so that's pretty cool. And there's also, you use the X button to control placeables, but I don't currently have any placeables here on this world, but I do plan on showing you that in a bit. So anyway, the cryopod, this is kind of where you start. You're always going to start at what's called your master cryopod. So whenever you die, you're going to respawn here. You can see inside of here I've got 10 cryorods, and in every world you create, when you create it, it starts with 10. Every time you die, these are spent. Now, once you run out of those, you'll still respawn here, but you will lose all of your items other than the primary tools, basically your digging tool and a saw tool. I think there might be some other things too that you get to keep when you die, but when I've died with no cryorods left, I've lost everything but those two, so I think you can lose some random gear as well. I think it said you can lose a random piece of gear. But yeah, so let's see, you can craft the cryorods, and I will get to that in a bit as well, but you essentially put those in here and then hit the arrow and it adds them in. And the reason it kind of works this way is that you can actually build other cryopods, so you can explore out in the world, build a cryopod, and then craft cryorods for it and put those in. And then essentially what you do is you select your cryopod, you choose to bind to it, and then it will start going through those cryorods as you die. So let's see here, what else do we have going on? That's the respawning, that's the death, which is important, right? You do die a lot in this game. There's a number of different ways to die, whether it's from creatures or exposure. And exposure is something I'll get into a bit later when I talk about exploring in the game. But let me get to gathering, because it's kind of the first thing you're going to be doing. The tools you start with here are the saw, first of all, and you can kind of reach out with this thing. And for this, you'll be using it against trees, for example, and you can pretty much hold anywhere here. And that'll go down, and I got protovines. And to just give you an example here, if you cut it from a distance, you'll see the actual vine fall down. So there's a couple of them there. And this guy's going to come after me. These guys are interesting creatures. They basically fly and they drain your energy. They don't do any damage, but they drain your energy. So very bad if you get assaulted by them while flying. So anyway, we go back to the saw here. Like I said, you can cut the tree down and get these items. So this is your first primary tool. Now, selecting the different items in your toolbar, up in the top left over here, this is kind of your toolbar, and you'll use Q and E to cycle through your items. left to right. So I start with the, what do they call this? The basic cutter gun. I just call it the saw, right? And then you've got your laser pick. It kind of looks like a crossbow. But this is the thing that actually digs into the ground. It's kind of cool because it puts this little time indicator on each block so you can see how long it's going to take. Some of them take longer than others, obviously. Now, one of the cool things too is that whenever you go to gather a resource, for example, that was dirt. If I want to gather this here, these are rocks. So you can see I've got 20, 21, 22 rocks. It shows you the count as you pick them up. But not only can you get what's there that I just dug out, but you can actually switch to the background layer, and you simply right-click with your tool and start digging as normal. Now, just like the ground, you do have to start with area that's kind of exposed to the elements, kind of the environment. I can't just go, for example, over to here and jump down into the hole and start digging the background here. You actually have to start from the top and dig in. So something to consider there if you think, hey, why isn't this working? You can stand directly over this while you do it. So again, gathering more rocks. Now this is important because you'll come across some of these deposits that'll be, for example, aluminum, and maybe there's a grid of, maybe there's 9 of them there. Well, that actually means there's going to be 18 because you can dig out the background layer as well. So that's pretty cool. Now another one of the tools that you have, that's a gun. This is a gun here, and I actually had to build this. This is earth, actually dirt, and you can place this just like in the games like Terraria. And so you've got this basically this weapon there, this gun that comes up, and this is just an indicator that you're holding something that can be put down. And basically you just kind of move around here and start placing it down. This will place, you can just run straight out like this. It's pretty cool. And just like the pick tool, you can right click and it will change and put background in. So putting down terrain in this game is very, very simple. I was very pleased to see that. It's very fast and very easy to do. So that's cool. And let's see, I don't have anything else quite equipped, so we circle back around to the cutter here. So let me get into crafting. Now, because I've been playing a bit, I've got some items already. If I hit R, it's going to bring up my inventory. You can see the 4 tools I've just shown you, as well as the toolbar up here. So I can take this dirt and move it here, and it actually will change the order over here that I will come up with when I'm cycle through everything. So anyway, we'll go ahead and move that back. And that dirt is actually represented down here. So I've got some kind of base materials here, some ice and other things. These are items that I got, whether it's from plants or animals, but basically not from the ground. I've kind of got these separated in this way. Now the thing to consider about the material that you're digging up is it kind of has 2 forms. Basically when you initially gather it, it's raw. So when I mouse over these, you'll see down underneath resource types it says raw mineral mud. So you kind of think of those as keywords, but they do kind of run in order. It's a raw mineral, and specifically it's mud. And in this case, this is dirt, clay, so these all belong to the raw mineral category. Now, when you go to craft things, basically if I hit 1, I'll bring up my craft window. What the different items need are one of 2 material types. They either need raw or they need organic. And the way you make organic material is you take it from raw to organic, and to do that you use the refiner here. So if I take mud, if I just mouse over it, in fact you can see that the description says it's a good source of viscosity that can be refined into inorganic mineral ore. So by mousing over these you can see what they will be if you refine them. So in this case, let me kind of pick an item here. If I go to a mining pick, an enhanced pick, which I actually have right now, I've already made this, you can see it takes this, what they call frames in this case. These words don't necessarily mean anything. What you're looking at is the description of raw mineral rock. So in this case, it's probably rock here. You can see raw mineral rock. So I could put these in there. It's certainly not enough. I would need 40. But you get the idea. We need raw organic for the biosensors. I have raw chemical, raw organic protoleaf. Will this work in there? Yes. So as you can see, it says raw organic. It doesn't get any more specific past this. This item actually is called a protoleaf. It has a kind of a step beyond organic as far as its description goes, but it does match this. The longer out you get a description like this guy, inorganic mineral or radioactive, that means that if you have an inorganic mineral, that's not specific enough. You need the radioactive ore as well, which I don't have any of those right now. So right now I have, I'm in the initial biome here. I'm kind of in my starting area, which is relatively safe. Now the way this seems to work is that you can drop down levels. And what I mean by that is, normally in, say, like Terraria, you can dig down pretty deep, but the earth is solid all the way down. It may have some kind of open gaps, but it's basically one chunk of land. In this case, imagine it like large floating islands, and so you can actually fall down to other biomes. The problem there is that the farther down you go, you basically have what's called exposure, and you need to have your armor brought up to certain points in order to withstand that exposure. Now, I only have a helmet right now. It's the only piece of gear I have, so it doesn't quite cut it for me. If I mouse over this, you'll see that it says exposure rank +3. So that's all I have going for me right now. If you look over the bottom left here, it says 3. I have no other kind of resistance or anything. So as soon as I go down far enough, you do get a warning, an exposure warning, and it's got kind of a timer. And so if you move back up, you'll be safe. And in a lot of cases, it is one step down. For example, I actually was exploring a world where imagine I was here, and then I stepped down, and I suddenly started having exposure. So I just crossed that line. But what we'll do is I think we're going to kind of find an edge over here and fall down to that. And we will probably die, but that's okay. Now the game does have another aspect to it when it comes to exploring. There are wormholes. Oh, this guy's tough. Oh, I died. But that's okay. And in fact, while we're here, we can kind of click in here and you see that I've got 9 cryorods. It's something you can actually see up top here as well. But, yeah, they have this aspect in the game called wormholes. I've run across one, so I don't really know a whole lot about it. Basically, you'll have this kind of swirling area and you can step into it, and it's got a timer. It tells you that you've got 250 seconds or something like that. So I stepped through and it brought me into basically another world. I was like underground in some caves, and I had a timer there, and I was kind of just trying to gather as much material within that area as I could, leaving myself enough time to get back through the wormhole. But as it turned out, I ended up getting attacked by a creature that was a little too tough for me, and I died, so I reappeared back at my spawn point. In fact, it was at that point I had no cryo rod, so I lost everything. So sad. But anyway, let's see. We're going to keep trying to go to the edge here and see if we can't die from exposure. And it looks like we're going to do that this time. So I'm kind of falling here, and you see there's no landmass. Now we've got the exposure warning up top. And in fact, we'll probably see the biome change. As far as what I mean by that is the background here. Hopefully that'll change before we die. This will hit, and then our life will start going down. So there we go. The background's changed, and we die. I really don't last very long, but that just kind of gives you a general idea of how that works. So you do want to be careful before you step off any edge where you cannot see out to the next chunk of land you're going to fall to. And that's actually where the tool comes in handy here, and putting down, for example, dirt, allowing yourself to kind of step out there a bit and without falling down, except when you do something like that. So anyway, let's see. We're going to cycle back here to my weapon. I'm getting swarmed by these guys. Okay, I've been out and about and gathered up some material, and I figure it's time to put some things down. Now, I'm still not extremely familiar with or proficient with the power system, so there could be some fiddling around a bit. But let's go ahead and jump in here. Now, the first thing we need to do is craft this stuff, and basically I just hit 1 and R to bring up the crafting and inventory screens here. So what we're looking at is, I think I'm going to put down a generator, a door, and then a switch to kind of toggle the door open and closed. So let's go ahead and get started with this. Now the 2 things we need on this tab are here. We've got a metal door we will make and the auxiliary generator. And then over here on this tab is where the trigger is at, the single block switch. So I've kind of got the materials laid out for this already. If I go to the metal door, I've got this material here. So we need some raw material. I figure clay will be good. And then we need 3 of the raw mineral metal, in which case aluminum does qualify. So go ahead and put that in here. We click Science, and it completes it. And you can see up here, put it in the inventory, the door. Now let me just shoot this stupid thing. Get out of my face. Okay, so we now have the door. Let's go ahead to the generator, and I've got those three lined up. So raw mineral mud, that's fine. I've got exactly 20 mud here. The raw chemical ice, we've got that, no problem. And the raw mineral rock. In fact, when I do that as well, just a quick note, I had extra. It leaves the extra in your cursor, so I just go ahead and put that down. And then the raw mineral rock. We just dropped that in here. Now, one thing I do want to note, because this threw me off when I was making something else a while back, I put material in here and I thought, oh, I want to make like a bunch of these, so let me just do like 3, 4, and you'll see the quantities go up. Now, I can't hit science. This won't work. It wouldn't grab the rest of what it needed from my inventory. So what you would have to do is actually choose the quantity you want first and then move the material in. And one way to kind of clear this out as well is you can just click on the item over here again, and you'll see it just moved everything back. In fact, that's kind of a bummer because now it just situated it in random places. So we need the ice. We got 22. Again, we'll drop the extra in here. And we need a bunch of the rock, which is here. And I'll put the extra here. So that's what we need for the generator. We go ahead and click that, complete it, and we've got the generator here. Finally, we jump over here to the single block switch. This one's pretty easy. It requires raw mineral metal, and then raw mineral. So in this case, we could use 1 and then 2 aluminum, or we could use 1 aluminum if we wanted to save it. And for the raw mineral, use any number of other things, including clay. Why not? But we could use dirt here as well. You know, anything that kind of matches that. We do have a ton of dirt, so we'll just go ahead and throw dirt in here. So we're going to use a piece of aluminum and 2 bits of dirt somehow to make a door switch. That's cool. So we'll go ahead and click science. Now in this way, one of the descriptions they have for the game, and you're kind of seeing it illustrated here, is that everything you pick up in the world has value. So really, I mean, mining everything is great, because even if it can't be used as is, you could refine it. Like I said before, you kind of mouse over and see what it refines to. So basically, that's really cool, gathering everything. And then additionally, what I read is that everything you gather has value all the way through to the end game as well. So there's not apparently a point where eventually you just don't need dirt anymore. It always has a value. So just a quick note. Now we've got the items here. We've got the door, the power, and the switch. So what we're going to do is go ahead and put these up into slots here so we can select and place them. Okay, so I've got our placeables situated into slots, and I also took the time to fill the background in the room. We're actually going to use the background to attach the generator and the switch. So let's go ahead and start with the door. Go ahead and put the door here, and this basically requires terrain above and below it, so I've got that set up. Now we're going to switch over to the generator, and again, this is attaching to the background, not necessarily to the ceiling or anything. For example, I couldn't put it out here and sit it on the floor. It actually attaches to a background, so we'll stick that there. And then one more, we've got the door switch itself. We'll put that there. So there's our 3 items. This is a powered door, so I can't just open it. It's currently not powered. And in order to connect all the power and everything, we have to go into the power mode. So in this case, that's with the letter or the keys Z or P, and I'm going to go Z in this case. So there you go. We've got indicators here. The generator is a powered state of on. The other ones are off. So we're going to select the generator, and we got this plus sign here. Select the switch and hit the minus, and you'll see that these 2 are now connected. If I deselect it, it's very hard to see, but there is a blue line here. So next we'll go to the door. We're going to hit the minus, back to the switch, and we'll hit the blue plus here. And now they are all connected. So the door is now open, it's powered. But if I put my mouse over the switch and hit F, I can close the door and open it, close it. And again, you can do this. Let me jump over here. You can do this from anywhere. As long as you can see it on the screen, you can interact with that button. Let's go ahead and take this guy out. These guys harass me. So now that those are in, let me show you how to remove them. Once you've got them placed, you may end up changing your room and want to move these things around. And this is pretty simple. Basically, you hit X with your mouse over one of the items. It'll give you an arrow, and hitting X again will give you a timer. Once that counts down, it drops to the ground. Now you do need to hold still. If I hit X and X again and then move, it interrupts the timer. But you can move the mouse around while the timer is going down. You just want to hold still. So we'll go ahead and take this guy down. And yeah, that that pretty much covers the placeables that are powered. It's pretty straightforward, very easy to understand, but there's a lot of room for complexity. They have what are called gates in here that allow you to add different controls. For example, if-else kinds of statements, you know, if this, then do that. And they also have, for example, they have a time delay. So I had put a delay, a timer between the switch and the door of 2 seconds at one point. So when I hit the door switch, it would actually take 2 seconds. And you interact with that the same way you would the switch. Basically, you put your mouse over it, and every time I hit F, interacting with it, the text down here in the bottom left would tell me, you know, half a second, 1 second, 2 seconds. It would kind of toggle between all of those. So anyway, like I said, a pretty simple system to get into, but a lot of room to get very complex with it. Well, that should just about wrap it up for me for Edge of Space. Like I said, normally in my Weem Tries videos, it's me diving in blindly, but with the learning curve this game has, I just wanted to kind of put out a video sharing with you how the game works and a lot of the basic introductory stuff that in some cases, had to spend a lot of time trying to look up, and even in some of those cases, not being able to find any information on it, and just kind of having to figure it out by myself. And while that is a lot of fun, it can be frustrating. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to show you guys this game, but also kind of walk you through some of the basics. Now, obviously, I didn't run around tearing up a lot of terrain and killing a lot of creatures, but there was a little bit of that, and really right now at this point, the biome, and I haven't really got that far, there's not a whole lot to see just yet, and not a lot of crazy creatures or anything. So anyway, I'll leave that to you to explore, but I hope that the video gave you some insight into the game, like I said, or if you have been playing it, maybe you're just getting started, I hope it helps you, you know, understand how to do some of this stuff and prevents you from getting hung up on anything. If you guys like this video, please consider giving it a like. I really appreciate that. Definitely helps. And yeah, thanks for watching. I will catch you guys next time.